Hi everybody, welcome back to our next educational video for you from Renaissance Fabrics. This one is called How I Ruined a Perfectly Good Piece of Cotton Silk Voile, even though I have 20 plus years of sewing experience. So yeah, let's get into this. So the story goes like this. I bought a piece, actually two pieces, remnants together of a what looks like a block printed fabric. It actually says 1974, so it's quite vintage. But when I bought it, it was white with brown figures on it, or a brown print on it. And I thought, oh, that would be great for 18th century because it kind of has that same all over print that you see in 18th century. They're slightly bigger than I would choose if I could make it myself. But since it was there and it was a good price, I can't pass up a good price. So I thought, well, I can always over dye it if I want to. And I did. I decided to use Rit Dye, which is my favorite dye to use because it's very versatile. I know you can get more technical and more specific with your dyes, but it works pretty well for me for most things, so I decided to go for it. I decided that I was going to put it yellow because, as you can see, I already have this pink outfit here, and I didn't want another pink outfit, although it is a pretty prevalent color in the 18th century along with white. But I decided to go with yellow because you also see yellow tends to be a mustardy yellow, but in this case I just wanted a regular yellow. So the problem is either that it sucked up the dye really well, or it the dye was too strong. The dye bath that I made was too strong, and it actually came out this color. Yeah, really bright, lemon yellow. Not really what I was going for. So I, dried it and pressed it, and I said, well, okay, I've just got to walk away from this one for right now. So I did. So fast forward to the last couple months, which is shelter in place time. And what I've been doing a lot with my time, surprisingly not sewing, but I have been reorganizing and going through my things and sort of doing all the prep work to get ready to sew that we don't normally have time for. We're busy sewing for a project or an event or whatever, and you just got to get to it, right? But things are messed up and it's not where you know where things are and everything. So I just decided I was going to take this time with no stress and just reorganize and clean out. And you can see my shelf looks very nice for you all now, which I'm very happy about. But in the process, I found this fabric, and it was still lemon yellow, that color. And I said, maybe there's something I can do about it. Maybe I can bleach it down. Maybe I can use some color remover. I have a whole bin of coloring supplies, liquid dye, historical dyes, vegetable dyes that are still in like cone form or root form or things like that. But I also have commercial dyes in there. So I thought, well, let me try some color remover. So I decided I was going to do that. And in the meantime, I found this cotton silk voile that was sitting in the back of my closet as well. So I decided to pre-wash. So I wanted to pre-wash this and get it ready to use, and I pre-washed this, and I thought, oh, well, I'll just throw them in together. Yeah, that was the worst idea ever. Well, maybe not ever, but, worst idea. So what happened is this turned sort of a lighter shade of what you see here. And typically I use cotton silk voile or voile in general for, fichus and veils and things like that. So having a yellow veil wasn't the greatest thing. I really wanted to get it back to white. So I, after being horrified, I decided to try some color remover. So this, strangely enough, actually did pretty well. This one came down to this lovely sort of pale yellow, which I think is very 18th century appropriate. So you will be seeing this in a future video or photo or something as a little jacket, but I have to figure out how to do it first. And my weight's been shifting, so I don't want to tackle that just yet. But I still had work to do to get the color out of this cotton silk voile. So what I decided to do was to bleach it. I Shouldn't have done that. I remember hearing, don't use bleach on silk. And in a few moments, I will show you why that is true. And that's why this is ruined. But the linen came through just fine, so that was great. And the other item that I wanted to get the color out, it worked really well as well. However, yeah, I've pretty much ruined this. And it was even darker than what you see here with the bleach. This actually was a result of using like an OxyClean. So I got pretty lucky there, but unfortunately, and I found out, unfortunately, this is ruined. And just a quick tug, it shreds. And what's interesting about this, not only, it's very sad. I'm actually very, very sad because I held on to this for years because I wanted to use it and I have ruined it. I've ruined it. What's interesting about this though is typically when you have blends, usually the strongest fiber is your warp fiber, which is the one that goes the full length of your fabric. However, because of the way this is breaking, what this tells me is that this is the selvage. So that's the edge of the fabric that's bound, and then this is the part that you cut right here, right? So you cut this here to measure your yardage. What this tells me is that where the silk threads are going this way, because that's what's breaking, that's what's shattering. And your cotton threads are the ones that are going back and forth. It's your weft. And I find that interesting because generally speaking, cotton is used as a warp thread. In linen, similarly. So when you have a linen blend with something else, generally the warp thread is linen because linen is very strong. And you'll notice that if I pull this way, it's really strong, right? Because those are the cotton fibers that were not affected by the bleach. But yeah, my silk has died. So in doing this, yes, I'm sad, but I also learned something. I learned that if I want to test fibers in clothing or in fabrics, and I've heard this before, that you can soak them in bleach and you can tell if the fibers dissolve. Well, maybe I don't have to get them to dissolve, but maybe I can test the warp and the weft to see. Now that won't account for things where the fibers are spun together. So you might have like a cotton and silk spun together potentially. So that won't help you determine that kind of mixture in fabric. But at least, if it is a single type of thread going one way and a single type of thread going the other way, you can. So that's my story. And that's the story of how I ruined my lovely cotton silk voile. And I don't know if I'll ever find any again, not like this, but it's okay. It's okay. We learn from our mistakes, and I would say to you, lesson number 1, don't use bleach on silk. And lesson number 2, don't use bleach on silk. No, I'm just kidding. Use color remover. It is safer to use on those fabrics. And lesson number 2 is if you want to test your fabric fibers, or you have a swatch of fabric and you want to test it, you can use bleach to weaken the fibers, and if they pull apart, they're either silk or wool or some other animal fiber. All right, see you next time.